Good afternoon, folks, and here we have a wonderful new story about Rian Johnson defending himself over his portrayal or writing of Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. And he considers the portrayal of Luke Skywalker as a true mythic hero, at which I would say, yes, that's true. He is a true mythic hero. So why did you screw up his character? I mean, you were pretty much given one of the most famous, well-known put to film characters in the history of cinema. Why did you screw him up? I mean, you could have done lots of subversion. That would have made sense, but you didn't. You just sort of used your own version of the character for whatever reason. This all came about from a post from, I'm trying to remember his name here. It's not Ryan's Luke or Luke C. Skywalker. And he made this post back in 2018 where he goes through the first three films of how Luke comes to the climax of his arc, essentially, where he realizes he was being irrational and emotional and ultimately not very helpful to the things he cares about, and says, I'm not going to kill my father. I am a Jedi like my father before me. I'm not giving in to my emotion. And that is what makes him a Jedi. He chooses not to become angry. He's not going to do what his father did and give in to his emotion. He decides to stop fighting, which is a path of peace. Probably not the wisest decision to throw your weapon away when you're faced with two really evil dudes, even though you care for one of them. But that's the kind of hero he was. He literally sacrificed himself right there, all to give his father a moment to redeem himself in whatever capacity. At that point, his arc is done, and whatever Vader wants to do is up to Vader. Vader can just say, to hell with Luke. I'm going to be evil again. But he didn't. It resonated with Vader, as good stories tend to do. You have a protagonist acting out their plot alongside the antagonist, and they come to a climax where they make a choice together in some capacity. It doesn't have to be exactly the same time, but they come to that realization in their minds that they're acting improperly and they have to resolve themselves. And sometimes the antagonist dies because they make the wrong choice, or they're too late because the protagonist has defeated them. There's all sorts of stories that deal with this, and it's very common. But let's see how Rian Johnson tries to defend this. And this is a pretty good post. I'll link in the description if you want to go over it. Rian Johnson reads this and says, "Oh, hey, Gil, I understand that point of view, but I completely disagree with it. In fact, I think it disrespects the character of Luke by treating him not as a true mythic hero, overcoming recurring wounds and flaws, but as a video game character who has achieved a binary permanent power-up." Well, that's kind of awkward to say because the arc was finished. The story of Skywalker was done with Episode 6, and it was clear as day what happened to him. He became a Jedi. He did it through believing in the peaceful nature of his father, even though his father was the most powerful evil dude in the galaxy that he was aware of until the Emperor came by, of course. So he believed in this. He was hopeful. He was believing in his feelings of kindness and goodness and peace. And he throws his lightsaber down. That is a crazy thing to do when you're up against evil. And he does it. And for us to see Luke Skywalker 30 years later as a hermit who, with one moment of the Force telling him, hey, you know what? Your nephew might become evil. He might be. We don't know yet. And he just impulsively pulls out his lightsaber in the middle of the night, creeping on him. And then he felt shame. And then Kylo reacted. And instead of Luke doing anything about that, even though the message of the story was you learn from your mistakes, you learn from failure, Luke did not learn from failure. But why? Luke is the kind of guy who would risk everything to save the one man he knew almost nothing about, aside from being very evil, but something inside was telling him he's actually good. Which made Darth Vader essentially the chosen one of stopping the Empire and redeeming himself, even in a small way, not completely, but even in a small way, to the one moment that mattered, to save his son. That was a beautiful piece of storytelling in cinema. to see that happen. It could resonate. It didn't have to be a science fiction drama, action adventure. It would resonate with anyone who watched that, who understood, hey, this is a dad who's been bad, and now he's changing his ways for his family. Very simple message. Anyone can grasp that. Rian Johnson, not so much. Didn't see the fact that Luke changed as a person, as a character. That was the point of the movie, at least the point of the trilogy, if you want to look at it, the arc of Luke, what he became. He became a Jedi and followed his path to the end. So for Luke to run away or not correct his mistake, to not go after Ben and say, hey, Ben, I was freaking out. I didn't know what happened. I'm sorry. I would never hurt you, etc. I'm your mom's brother. I'm your uncle. I'm your teacher. I'm only here to help you. I got scared. We can work through this together, etc., etc. But no, that never happened. That message was never portrayed. For some reason, it took all this time for Yoda to pop up and tell Luke, hey, Luke, failure is our greatest teacher. Why did it take so long? We don't know. But no, Rey, the power girl, the person who can defeat anything because she has no conflicts, had to come into Luke's life, and then he learned something about... I don't know what he learned. He wanted to destroy the Jedi text. I don't know what she taught him, and I don't know why Luke projected himself halfway across the galaxy or wherever he went, and then died. I don't get it. He wouldn't have done anything. You can't interact physically except with dice that were projected, and then they disappeared. So he wouldn't have actually done or could have done anything. But for some reason, that caused Poe to think, hey, he's stalling for time. What a great opportunity to retreat, even though the entire movie is about the Resistance retreating. But apparently Poe sees this as, oh, it's time to retreat, like we've always done, even though they should have been killed by the time that battering ram cannon blew a hole in the giant shield. So quite a few plot holes, quite a few character moments that didn't add up. And Rian Johnson, I don't know. I think maybe he should stop interacting with people. He's obviously not learning anything. He's obviously just digging himself deeper. And time will show us. Maybe not next year, but maybe from 10 years from now, people will go look back and say, you know what? That movie was really badly put together, and it really ruined the franchise. And if reviews of the Rise of Skywalker seem to be better than The Last Jedi, at least the user reviews. So I don't know why that is. Again, I haven't seen the movie. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But not a great legacy there to have, Rian, of ruining the most popular character in movie history of the most popular franchise in movie history. Thanks for listening, guys. Have yourself a great day.